Thank you for your very warm introduction. Your Excellency, Mr. Incheon, Minister of Interior and Safety of the Republic of Korea, Honorable Eugene Mint, Undersecretary General of the United Nations, Department of Economic and Social Affairs, welcome to Korea again. Honorable Park Jun-ha, Vice Mayor of Incheon Metropolitan City, thank you for your statement on behalf of Mayor Bang Nam-chun. And I'd like to also recognize Professor Kim Eun-mi, Ewha Women's University's Graduate School, and Mr. Jung Jae-gun, head of the UN UNPO, Mr. Anwar Sanusi, Secretary General of the Ministry of Village Development of Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor for me to take this opportunity to say a few words on this very important symposium on leveraging public governance to accelerate the achievement of the SDGs. I'd like to thank Minister Incheon for your very kind recognition about my role as sort of missionary of Sustainable Development Goals. I'm very much proud that these SDGs were adopted during my time as the Secretary General. And this is one of the three proudest achievements which I did during my time as the Secretary General. One is the Climate Change Agreement, Paris, which was adopted in Paris the same year, SDG, and the women's empowerment, which I really did passionately to really level up the status of women in every aspect of our life. Ladies and gentlemen, again, I'd like to really thank and congratulate on holding this very important meeting here in Incheon Metropolitan City. My sincere congratulations on the realization of the important symposium, which comes at a critical time for both the Asia-Pacific region and our collective efforts to accelerate achievement on SDGs. My gratitude goes to the United Nations, DESA, the Ministry of Interior and Safety of Korea, and Incheon Metropolitan City for your hard work in support of this symposium. To all of the distinguished delegates and government officials who have traveled here from 27 Asia-Pacific countries, I'm honored to welcome you all to my country. Ladies and gentlemen, your ongoing role as a sustainable development focal point, public administrators, and ICT and innovation experts is essential as we strive to achieve the SDGs and succeed in leaving no one behind. The basic philosophical background, motto, vision is that nobody should be left behind, regardless of what you are, whether you are a person with disabilities, whether you are having a different sexual orientation, whether you are living in developed or developing countries, whatever you may be, one may be, that nobody should be left behind. That is a very important vision. Ladies and gentlemen, changes to the international order are ushering in a new period of global unpredictability and risk. Indeed, we have witnessed many seismic geopolitical changes in the past 4 years since the adoption of these SDGs at the United Nations. Threats to traditional alliances, increased trade disputes, and resurgent nationalism have all complicated multilateral cooperation when the world needs it the most. as a former Secretary General, I cannot but express my deepest concern about what is going on. The multilateralism is under attack. Multilateralism has been the backbone, basic framework of international community, particularly since the end of Second World War. Having seen such tragic consequences, where 60 million people were killed during the Second World War, the world's leaders were united that we should never repeat this kind of a tragedy. That's why they have established the United Nations. As a former Secretary General, I'm asked by many people, is the United Nations united? How to unite the United Nations in this divided world? That is very serious questions I'm asked. As a former Secretary General, I do not have any answer. I can only criticize those people who really try to disrupt this multilateral systems. Those countries who have been taking leadership role during the last 7 decades, believing in multilateralism, are now shying away from this multilateralism, from the United Nations. Big countries are stepping from the United Nations Commission on Human Rights, withdrawing from the Paris Climate Change Agreement, disrupting these multilateral trading systems, threatening World Trade Organization. That's what we have to really prevent. I sincerely hope that you discuss this matter to address and to make sure that Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, can give good guidelines to make this world better for all, to make everybody peaceful, more prosperous, more secure. This is what I am asking world leaders to share more moral, political responsibilities. Ladies and gentlemen, as 2019 closes, it seems like our planet is again on fire. The earth is having fever. When your children are having fever, you must go to the doctors. All the causes of disease comes when your body has a fever. All the causes will come when our planet Earth is having fever. We have to really cool down this temperature. Last July was the hottest month in the world since last 140 years. That is an alarm. That is the wrath of nature. Unless we really take urgent and drastic measures to address the climate change agreement, there will be no hope for our succeeding generations and our planet Earth. We need to be able to live harmoniously with our nature. Nature does not negotiate with a human being. Nature does go its own way. So it's only natural that our human being must follow the voices of nature before the wrath of nature hit human society. We have again to show our moral, political responsibility before it will be too late. Ladies and gentlemen, over the last year, we have witnessed tens of millions of people take to the streets to make their voices heard. Such a global protest, while unique within their own national context, also share many underlying connective threads that we should all take note. I was in New York last September On September 23rd, you must have heard this young Swedish girl, Greta Thunberg, speaking out to the world leaders. There were at least 150 global leaders sitting in the General Assembly Hall. I was sitting in the VIP section. I watched her speaking. She said, because you have not kept your promise, you have taken my future, you have taken my dream, I will never forgive you. What a powerful message for a young girl. Now this movement is now taking place even in Korea. I'm very, very much impressed that these young voices are now taking to the street, to the schools. This includes, again, frustrations with rising inequality and austerity, anger at corruption and institutions, and demands to increase the urgency in addressing climate change. Under this backdrop, I firmly believe that achieving the SDGs can help bring us together in this era of expanding discord and simultaneously pave the path to equality. The SDGs vision for our shared future, as I said, is no one should be left behind. In order to meet this noble aspiration, it is absolutely essential to scale up transformation, innovation, and inclusion by all stakeholders in the region, including here in Asia Pacific, and particularly by public governance officials. 4 years since its adoption, SDG has made tangible progress on bettering maternal mortality rates, tackling poverty and hunger, and improving the quality of water and sanitation. But progress is uneven. I'm asking world leaders, and including Republic of Korean government, take a stronger ownership. Without strong ownership, this can never be implemented. There are again some pessimistic views, whether and if the SDGs can be completed and met its target by the end of 2030. We have only 11 years to go now. According to a German foundation, Bertelsmann's Foundation, which was released this summer, they have evaluated the progress report of at least 70 countries, or among 193 member states. Among the best performing 20 countries, from 1 to 20, they are mostly European countries. And most of the African countries, Southeast Asian countries are falling behind 100. Among best 20 performing countries, there are only 4 non-European countries. They are New Zealand, Canada, Japan, and Republic of Korea. They say South Korea, Republic of Korea. I was relieved that my own country at least belongs to one of the 20 best performing countries, but that's not enough. I'm asking my government, Korea, to do much, much more. Korea should show best example as the only country, the first and the only country who has transcended from donor receiving country to donor giving country. So we should be proud, but before being proud, we should do much more. I'm asking Honorable Minister Jin to raise this issue with the President and in the government, the cabinet meetings. Thank you much for in advance. Ladies and gentlemen, to achieve the SDGs by 2030, we need all hands on deck. All hands on deck. Where everyone joins together in partnership to harness ownership, strong ownership, participation, and the active improvement from all sectors of society. Crucially, we also need increased political will and policy changes on the part of governments and public officials like you to scale up investment, innovation, and action in fields such as education, health, social protection, and the environment. And refocusing our unified efforts to achieving Goal 16 of the 2030 Agenda, which calls for effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels everywhere, is absolutely necessary, as SDG 16 is a true enabler of all the other goals. As you will know very well, there was some very sensitive negotiation at the time when SDGs was finally approaching to the end. Goal 16, justice, strong institutions. Particularly donor countries were insisting that without these strong institutions and justice and fairness, then all the goals may be, even though they might be achieved, may be in vain, when all these corruptive practices may just prevail in the process of this implementing sustainable development goals, then just nothing. Therefore, it has a very important meaning to implement Sustainable Development Goals number 16. First, we need to understand that transformation is both a mindset and an essential ingredient to accelerate necessary and interconnected policy initiatives. We need leadership that is transformative to rebuild the trust of citizens and boost the reputation of the critical role of public servants, government officials, and public sector more largely. We must do a better job of communicating with the constituents, citizens, and providing them with a guiding stake in public decision making. Second, to kickstart this type of transformation, public officials, government officials must pursue new approaches to innovation. In that, I think UNPOG can play a very important role to discuss with the civil society, our citizens, and even government officials. This should move beyond the reliance on ICT delivery of public services towards broader, multidimensional approaches. Over the next 11 years, we must make sure that progress in innovation, science, and technology will be essential in delivering on all the SDGs, from poverty eradication to agriculture, food security, energy, water, sanitation, and eliminate a climate crisis. Third, we must understand, however, that inclusiveness remains an essential pillar for fulfilling all the SDGs. Whether it is women or children, people with disabilities, immigrants and refugees, elderly or other marginalized communities, we simply cannot move forward without first ensuring that they are all on board. In this connection, I believe that education, particularly global citizenship education, can help boost inclusion and empowerment at all levels and facilitate SDG gains. I have been already raising this issue, how to educate the young people. after 10 years, and even including 3 years now as a former Secretary General, I realized that I have been speaking all the times with the existing generation, your generation, our generation. But what we are doing is to make sure that our succeeding generation can live in prosperity and harmony and security without feeling climate risk. Therefore, I've been speaking out recently that Korean government and all the governments around the world must include this new curriculum, new educational systems, starting from elementary, middle, and high school, so that by the time they take leadership role in our society, then it will become part of their body. I was encouraged, as was already reported in the newspapers, that Italian Minister of Education had already announced that all Italian students, elementary, middle, high school, will have to have at least 31 hours of classes on climate and sustainable development. This is something our government should take action. I'm going to recommend and meet Deputy Prime Minister and Education Minister on this matter. I hope you will give us full support on this matter. Ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude. We can, if we work together, we can create the future we want. When we negotiated this SDGs, our question through United Nations website was asking all the citizens around the world, what kind of world do you want? That was the main question. We can now create the future we want, one that is anchored in inclusion, empowering women, and sustainability for all people and our planet. And the Asia-Pacific vision can lead by example. That's why you are here. The public sector is essential in delivering the knowledge, skills, and guiding values required to construct a more inclusive, sustainable, and peaceful world. As such, I humbly call all of you to harness your efforts to enhance transformation, innovation, and inclusion in your own countries to accelerate achievement of the SDGs. With your continued active leadership and engagement, I am confident that the SDGs can help unite the world through cooperation and partnership in Asia and the Pacific and beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, let us work together to make this world better for all. I thank for your leadership. Thank you very much.